have a seat, settle in, and share a cup of tea with me. Let's get started. It's only 100 degrees in Chicago today, so the perfect time to have a cup of tea. I wanted my first video for this channel to be about this absolutely bonkers story about my very ridiculous and convoluted family structure and family history. I thought it would be fun because I'm planning to make a lot of different videos about all sorts of subjects like lefty politics, social work, Pokemon, video games, TV and movies, social movements, baking, queer stuff, even some like language definition stuff that I think is really interesting. But I did think it would be cool to also share some stuff about my personal life, and I think this is a pretty funny topic and story that says a lot about the consistent chaos that has orbited around my life. In order to tell this story, we're gonna need to know and to review a little bit of my family history. So I'm gonna put up a chart of my mom's family and then a chart of my dad's family and go through each of them. My parents were divorced when I was really young, not very close to my dad's side or my dad or any of them. So on my mom's side, we have my grandpa Larry. He passed away on New Year's Eve going into 2020, which thank God for him, because that would have been a terrible final year for him to experience. So I'm actually pretty happy for him that he got to pass before all of that, and then we got to spend some time with him before glass walls had to come up between us. My grandma and I are really close. Her name's Lori. She's a published author. She's been writing her whole life. She lives about 3 blocks from me, so we have dinners regularly on Monday nights if we can. Have to rearrange sometimes. Before she started smoking for like 50 years, she was a really talented singer. I'll put a clip of it in here because I listen to this song all the time. I love to hear her sing. She has such a wonderful voice.
How glad the many millions of Thomases and Williams would be to capture me. But you had such persistence, you wore down my resistance. I fell, and it was swell.
And in addition to that, she's the one in my family who shares the closest political ideologies on the spectrum with me. So it's always fun to talk to her about stuff. And I also just love to hear the stories she's writing about. She got her first novel. She'd written a ton before, but she got her first actual novel of like a story that she'd created, published when she was 86. She is 90 now, and she has her second book mostly finished, but she's doing some editing and trying to get it sold to a publisher or to an agent who can bring her to a publisher. So it is never too late to follow your dreams. She's gonna be 91, maybe 92 when she gets it published. Those are my grandparents on my mom's side. They had my mom, Leslie, and her brother, Robert, Bob. We have an Uncle Bob, and he married this woman named Karen, and the two of them never had any kids. So on my mom's side, it's just me and my 2 sisters, Maddie and Abby, that are like the grandkids. Okay, so on my dad's side, it's my dad, Larry, who I'm not in touch with or not really connected to, and he has a sister named Lisa. Now Lisa married into an incredibly wealthy Chicago royalty-like family. So basically every time I go out into the city, I see something that is built or made by them. But my mom's side of the family was pretty broke. We didn't always have money for food growing up. We had to have, neighbors and other things help us sometimes. So it's interesting to see billionaires on one side of the family and then, relatively broke family on the other. And they have immense political power as well. It's just wild to see the difference here. Lisa married into that family, married John. The 2 of them had 3 kids, Adam, Noah, and Sam. And then my dad and Lisa's parents are Ira and a woman who we called Grandma Happy. I don't know if that was her actual last name or if it was just kind of one of those nicknames that you give your grandparents. You know how sometimes people's parents will call their parents something like Mimi or Mima or I don't know, even some random nickname. So I'm not 100% sure if her name, first name or maiden name might have been Happy, or if that was just like some sort of interesting nickname that we gave her. I really don't know. I tried to do research for this video to figure it out, but no matter where I looked online, I couldn't find it, and it's not exactly something that I can just go to my dad's side of the family and ask. And my mom's side of the family doesn't love talking about my dad's side of the family. So I was trapped between a bit of a rock and a hard place and couldn't find any answers through research online. So my grandpa's name is Ira. He remarried after divorcing my grandma, Happy, and then married a woman named Sheila. So all of that is just to say that my family is very separate, and I don't really know many of them well anymore. I would hang out with them during Jewish holidays and other like big family events, but for the most part, I haven't seen any of them in 10 to 15 years. So that is the family tree for the most part. Now, I know this is going to seem like a lot of setup, but I would love to talk a little bit about my own personal history and look a little bit deeper into that so that we can get to the reason why this story happened in the first place. I know it's a lot of setup, but I do think that it will be a good payoff when the punchline comes. So growing up, I wanted to be a doctor. I had cancer that ran in my family. My mom, my grandma, my grandpa, my great uncle, a lot of people had cancer in my family. And I also loved math and science when I was a kid. I did everything I could to take as many science classes in high school, all of the additional elective classes that we could take. Typically, I chose science classes unless we had to take some sort of music or whatever class. And in math, like in second grade, Mr. Findor, he would give us the times table charts, and there would be 10 by 10 math questions. We'd have to obviously memorize them or just be good at math in general to get through them. So I think we had like a minute or 2 minutes to get as many of the answers done as we could. And I would race through them because I just wanted so badly to be able to do well. And I would usually, kick some ass and feel really proud. So math and science were, my thing growing up. And I continued that path so I went to school in England my freshman year of college because I got into a biomedical program. I went out there, decided this wasn't really my path, and then transferred to a different school later to study more community organizing and politics and that kind of stuff. My senior year of high school, I was still on this path to go towards being a doctor, and I wanted a kick-ass resume for college. So I thought it would be a really good idea to get a job that would highlight some of my interests in science. I also just wanted to learn a lot more about the body and about what realm of science I wanted to go into. I thought I wanted to do pediatric oncology because cancer, and I also love kids. My biggest goal in life is to be a dad. And I thought that that would be a good path. So I got a job at Illinois Bone and Joint. It's a physical therapy place. I know there's this one woman, it's actually crazy. She took too much Aleve, I think, or Advil. And there's like a 1 in a million side effect that it like does something fucked up to your ligaments. And so one of the ligaments in her ankle just tore off completely just because of some adverse reaction to like Advil or Aleve or something. And she had to like relearn how to walk. It was insane. But anyway, I was working there during my senior year of high school. So my role at that facility at Illinois Bone and Joint, IBJI, was a rehabilitation technician. So I would work with all of the patients. I would get called over by a physical therapist, and then they would hand their patient off to me so that I could show them how to do their exercises properly and communicate proper form. I'd, sometimes have to move them or shift them a little bit so that they could not hurt themselves while trying to rehabilitate themselves. Before actually we get into the next part, I just have to say how cool physical therapy technology is. There were 3 machines that I really loved to work with. There was one that was called the electrical stimulation machine, and basically you put on 4 little pads in a square area that provide some sort of light shock. It kind of feels like a buzzing, and you turn it up on a dial to get to be a pretty strong buzz, so it almost feels like pins and needles, like when your leg falls asleep or something. But you put it around the affected area and it helps improve blood flow to the area and break down scar tissue, reduce pain, that kind of stuff. So that I always thought was like the coolest thing ever. And then there's an ultrasound machine that has this wand in it, and you put the wand in a medicated jelly, and the jelly has some sorts of medication that are pushed through into the deep tissues from the ultrasound wand, from the waves. And so it also, the head of the wand has this like super expensive crystal in it, and I have absolutely no idea why they let a 17-year-old hold on to that. I mean, I didn't break it or anything, but could have been a disaster, and I'm really surprised that there was never anything wrong. It isn't too hard to do, but it's still definitely a liability on their part. So those two I thought were really cool. And then I also loved working with the anti-gravity treadmill. It's like this big box that you put your, like you stand in on a treadmill, and then it lifts up and puts air pressure to lift your body up to a certain percent of your body weight. And so if your knees or your ankles at the time you're trying to relearn how to walk or run, it'll help take pressure off of those areas while still letting them build up strength and learn the mechanics of how it is to walk or run again. It's an incredible machine. Anyway, this story takes place when I was at work one day. I think it was a Tuesday. I just got off of school and I went straight to work. I was in my school clothes, so I had to change into my other work attire. It was like khakis, gym shoes, and then there was this like nice kind of athletic material for the top that helped me be all agile in case I needed to like run or do some sort of other physical activity. And there was this incredibly sexy physical therapist that worked there. His name was either Chris or Christian. I'm pretty sure it was Christian. And I always loved when he called me over so that I got to work with his patients, because I was like a little gay 17-year-old just was really excited to be around a hot physical therapist. And so this day I was working with Julie at the start, a different physical therapist, and she had me work with one of her patients. So I was helping them, I was, showing them proper form, doing all that stuff. At the end of the like hour or whatever time it was when she was done with her exercises, I let the patient go and then was gonna move on to my next patient. So Christian calls me over. And I'm like, okay, Christian, here I come. I'm all excited and like giddy, just getting to talk for a few minutes, and also with this new patient. And so while we're there, he's still finishing working on the patient's leg. He's doing some final massage therapy techniques, and then he's gonna hand the patient off to me. He's telling me a little bit about what the problem is and kind of some of the exercises that she needs to practice. So I'm also talking to her a little bit because it's always good to get to know the patients just for general rapport sake and normalcy. You're also gonna be working with them for like 30 minutes to an hour, and it's really important that you build rapport quickly so that if you have to put your hands on them to correct form, then it isn't as uncomfortable for them. But anyway, I had my name tag on, so it said Jake, so I was talking to this woman and I said, hi, like, my name's Jake, it's good to meet you. And she said, oh my God, what a coincidence, I have a grandson named Jake. And I was like, that's why. And she asked where I went to high school. So I told her the high school that I went to, and she said, my grandson Jake also goes to that high school. And so that wasn't really surprising to me because I lived in a Jewish community. The high school had about 2,000 people, and I'm pretty sure half of them were named Jake or Jacob. In one of my math classes my senior year, it was a random seating chart. There were 3 Jakes, including myself, 1 Jacob, and 1 Jay. And we all got sat in one column, the farthest to the left away from the door. And so every time that our teacher would start to say one of our names, we would all turn our heads and like look. And this is not the Constitution. You don't need 2/3 to ratify. You can just press random again and then like, disperse us a little bit throughout the room. You really don't need to let that go. Like, lady, you should have fixed that. Back to the story. I really was not surprised that her grandson's name was Jake because everybody who goes to that school's name was Jake. So I asked what his last name is because I said maybe I know him. There's obviously a lot of kids in the school, but I just kind of knew people in general. I knew, groups. I had an older sister, 2 years older, and a younger sister, 2 years younger. So I kind of knew people in all the grades. And she says his last name's Stone. Yeah, that's me. So this is my grandma. I hadn't seen her in about 10 years, maybe a little bit longer. It was a lot. I was dumbfounded and pretty silent, and at the same time, Christian is still massaging her leg. His jaw is on the floor, his eyes are plastered open, and he's rapidly like moving his head back and forth between the two of us. He has this complete look of confusion, which we all are feeling and expressing at the same moment. And I say, well, that's me. My last name's Stone. Good to see you, Grandma. I haven't seen you in 10 years or so. I hadn't seen her maybe since I was 7-ish, and 7 or 8, and I was 17 at the time. I mean, I don't even know her actual first name, even after trying to do research to find her name, let alone what she looked like from a decade ago. Those memories are very sparse and thin in terms of content. To say that I didn't see that coming is an understatement. It kind of backed away after I said, hi, Grandma, like, that's me. It's good to see you. I pull Kristen aside and say, I gotta go. I can't handle this. I just got off of class on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm not here to deal with some family trauma. And so he says, yeah, no problem. I understand that's absolutely insane. I don't know what to say in response to that. And I said, me neither. So he said, you know, come back at the top of the hour. I'll set her up with a different rehab tech. And then you can come back and then we can, you know, keep the shift going. So I head off to the back room, but not before kind of giving a little wave and a little, you know, head nod. Bye, Grandma. Great to see you for the first time in a decade. So I wait out my time, and at the top of the hour when I come back, she's gone. She didn't say anything to Christian or to anybody else about the situation. I think later in that same week, she left a card for me, and it was very interesting. It was all generic platitudes, because I mean, what else do you say to your grandson you haven't seen in a decade? I mean, I guess I would have expected her maybe to be a little bit more excited and happy, but I mean, given her name, but I am not too surprised because she was never particularly warm and cuddly before. So it said stuff like, I love you, it was good to see you, I hope you're well, contact me if you want, left her number, that kind of stuff. So I never did end up reaching out to her, but you know, like I said, it's a lot of family craziness, and it's not something that I was particularly interested in at the time or now. I haven't seen her since then, or talked to her. You know? Come to think of it, I was 7 when I had seen her the first time. Then 10 years later, I saw her at Illinois Bone and Joint when I was 17. And then now I'm 27. So it's been about 10 years. I should probably run into her like any day now. Wouldn't that be crazy? I wonder if she's still alive. Ugh. That got a little dark. I guess this whole story is dark? I don't know. Sometimes, you know, you tell a story and you think it's funny, and then other people respond with horror, and you learn, you know, maybe that wasn't so funny. So I hope this is not one of those, because often when I tell this story, other people just kind of laugh. So hopefully you feel the same. I really wanted to just share this story with you because I think it is completely chaotic and hilarious. This doesn't really actually happen to people, so I feel like it's insane that it happened to me, and I would love to know if in the comments, if any of you have experienced anything even remotely similar to this, or what your thoughts are on the story. I can't really think of a correlated example of what something like this would be other than running into a long lost family member. I don't know if there's like a similar level of weirdness that goes into family stories of something somewhat similar vibe or energy to this story. So if you got them, please share them. I would love to read them. Like I said at the beginning, there are a bunch of different topics that I want to do videos on, and I already have some ideas for, I actually have like a lot of ideas for what I want to do next. And so I thought it would be fun to put some sort of poll in the description box, which you can respond to either in the comments. If it's not something that you can click on in the description box, I have no idea how this works. I was hoping to put a poll in and it could show some of the generic topics that I want to talk about, and whichever 2 or 3 video ideas get the most likes or votes are the ones that I'll make for the next month or upcoming in general. I'm gonna maybe try to do 2 or 3 of these a month, maybe, I don't know, I don't think 4 is realistic. I'm finishing a master's program, there's a lot going on. So I thought it would be a fun way to kind of find out what you guys are interested in general. You know, you gotta give people what they want. I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your responses and getting to know hopefully some of you through the comments a little bit better. I also, since I'm getting my master's in social work right now and I wanna go on to be a therapist, I'm hoping to provide some resources. I would like to put resources relating somewhat to the topic of that video into the description box. So today, a lot of it was about stress relating to my particular experience there, stress management, sometimes family difficulties, family trauma, family therapy, that kind of stuff. So since I'm a Chicagoan, I am going to be putting resources that are mostly specific to the Chicago area, but I will try to put stuff that can be applicable nationally or internationally. I have no idea how YouTube works or if anybody will see this video at all. So hopefully that can be something that you can click on and get linked up with. So to end this video, this bonkers story, I hope you're well, and I hope you're showing yourself and others how much love, gratitude, and kindness you have to offer the world. I'll see you next time. Bye. I felt weird. Bye.